The email landed in my inbox at 7:42 p.m., the subject line a cold, impersonal string of numbers from my bank. Unusual activity alert. My thumb hovered over the screen, the kitchen quiet except for the low hum of the fridge. I was still in my work blazer, heels kicked off by the door, a glass of Pinot Noir half drunk on the counter. The notification felt routine, another flagged purchase, probably from that boutique I'd browsed last weekend. But when I opened it, the words hit like a slap, a $4,872 charge to a resort in Tulum, Mexico. A place I'd never been. A place we'd never discussed. My heart thudded, a dull ache spreading through my chest. Christopher, my husband of 7 years, was upstairs, his laughter drifting down as he played some online game with his buddies. He hadn't mentioned a trip. He hadn't mentioned anything. Before I dive into my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever faced betrayal and fought back. Your support fuels these tales of resilience. I'm Emily, 34, a marketing manager who'd clawed her way up the corporate ladder in Chicago's cutthroat advertising world. My life wasn't a glossy magazine spread, but it was mine, built with the kind of grit I'd learned from my mother, whose hands were always rough from double shifts at the diner after Dad walked out. I was 9 when I watched her count pennies for groceries, her eyes tired but fierce, vowing we'd never depend on anyone again. That lesson stuck, shaping every choice I made, the late nights studying for my business degree, the internships I juggled to avoid student loans, the promotions I earned through sheer will. I wasn't just surviving, I was building something solid, something no one could take away. Or so I thought. Our Lincoln Park apartment was a testament to that effort, a cozy 900-square-foot haven on a tree-lined street where the elms whispered in the summer breeze. The hardwood floors creaked underfoot, polished to a warm glow by my weekend cleaning sprees. The living room held a thrift store sofa we'd reupholstered together, its navy fabric soft against my skin when we curled up for movie nights. A gallery wall showcased my amateur pottery, lopsided mugs and mosaic coasters I'd made in a class Christopher had gifted me for my 30th birthday. The kitchen smelled of fresh basil from the herb planter on the windowsill, a gift from my coworker Jenna, who swore it brought good luck. Mornings began with the espresso machine's hiss, its steam curling like a promise as Christopher handed me a mug, his hair still mussed from sleep. "Team Carter," he'd say, clinking his cup against mine. I'd laugh, sipping the bitter brew, believing we were unstoppable. Work was my sanctuary, a glass-walled office in the loop where the city's pulse thrummed through the windows. My desk was a fortress of organized chaos, client briefs stacked neatly, a photo of Mom and me at my college graduation, a stress ball shaped like a tiny globe. The agency buzzed with energy, phones ringing, creatives pitching wild ideas, the faint scent of espresso lingering from the break room. I'd earned my corner office through years of 12-hour days, my campaigns landing clients like Nike and Starbucks. Last month, I'd led a pitch for a tech startup, my team huddled around a whiteboard, markers squeaking as we mapped out a viral ad. "You're a rock star, Em," my boss, Karen, had said, hinting at a VP role if I kept it up. I thrived on the pressure, the validation, the knowledge that every dollar I earned my pragmatist, a graphic designer whose ambition once matched mine. We'd met junior year at Northwestern, bonding over late-night study sessions and cheap pizza. He'd sketch logos on napkins, his eyes bright with plans to start his own studio. "We'll be unstoppable," he'd say, kissing me under the campus oaks. After graduation, I took a corporate job while he freelanced, his projects always on the verge of breaking through. I covered rent, groceries, the credit card we shared for emergencies, believing his big break was just around the corner. He'd thank me with a grin, promising to pay me back when the money rolls in. I didn't mind, at least, not at first. Love meant carrying the load, didn't it? My mom had done it for years, and I'd learned to do the same. Our weekends were simple but sacred. We'd stroll along Lake Michigan, the water glinting like shattered glass, his hand warm in mine. Once, we'd driven to Michigan for a weekend, staying in a tiny cabin where the air smelled of pine and possibility. We'd cooked s'mores over a fire pit, his laughter echoing as I burned my marshmallow. "You're hopeless, Em," he'd teased, feeding me a perfect one. Those moments felt like proof we were building something real. Back home, we'd host friends for game nights, the dining table crowded with wine glasses and Scrabble tiles. Jenna would tease Christopher about his starving artist vibe, and he'd laugh, slinging an arm around me. "Good thing I've got Emily to keep me fed." Everyone laughed, but the words lingered, a faint weight I couldn't shake. The cracks started small, so subtle I almost missed them. Christopher's phone, once left carelessly on the counter, was now always face down, its screen flashing with texts he'd dismiss with a glance. "Work stuff," he'd mutter, shoving it in his pocket. He'd stay up late, claiming he was in the zone, but I'd hear the soft chime of messages, not the scratch of his stylus on his tablet. His studio, our spare bedroom, was a mess of energy drink cans and crumpled sketches, but when I peeked in, his laptop showed travel sites, not design software. He'd grown irritable, snapping when I asked about his day, his jokes now edged with sarcasm. "Not everyone's a corporate drone, Em," he'd said once, when I mentioned a late meeting. The words stung, but I swallowed them, blaming stress. One evening, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket, $12.47 for 2 lattes at a cafe in Wicker Park, a neighborhood he never visited. "Met a client," he said, his eyes sliding away. I nodded, ignoring the twist in my gut. Another time, he came home smelling of a cologne I didn't recognize, sharp and musky, not the cedarwood scent I'd bought him for Christmas. "Sample at the store," he shrugged, heading for the shower. I wanted to believe him. I'd spent years building this life, brick by brick, and doubt felt like a wrecking ball. My mom had warned me about men who drift, her voice low over coffee last Thanksgiving. "Watch for the signs, Emily. They start small." I'd brushed her off, but now her words echoed, a warning I couldn't ignore. That night, the bank alert shattered my denial. I sat at the kitchen island, the granite cold under my forearms, and opened the credit card app. My hands shook as the transactions loaded, $4,872 for the Tulum resort, $1,200 for an airline ticket, $300 for a spa package, $450 for a Cancun boutique hotel. All in the past week, all on my card, my account, my savings, my years of sacrifice. The apartment felt too quiet, the hum of the fridge a mocking reminder of normalcy. Upstairs, Christopher's laughter grated, each chuckle a betrayal. I logged into his email, my birthday still his password, and found a confirmation for a couple's retreat in Tulum, booked for him and Lila. The name hit like a punch, Lila, his flirty coworker from last year's agency party, all smiles and lingering touches. Their messages were a knife, heart emojis, "Can't wait for our escape," promises to leave it all behind. He'd planned this with her, using my money, my trust, my life. But beneath it was ice, clarity, sharp and unyielding. I wasn't my mother, crying over dad's debts, rebuilding from nothing. I was Emily, who'd negotiated million-dollar deals, who'd saved her family from foreclosure, who'd carried a marriage alone. I closed the laptop, the click echoing in the silent kitchen. Christopher's footsteps creaked upstairs, heading down. I poured my wine down the sink, watching it spiral like my old dreams. He'd made his choice. Now I'd make mine. The next morning, I woke at 4:30 a.m., the city still cloaked in pre-dawn hush. Christopher slept soundly, his arm flung across my pillow, oblivious to the storm I was brewing. I slipped out, my bare feet cold on the hardwood, and brewed coffee in the dark. The ritual grounded me, the gurgle of the machine, the bitter steam curling upward. I sat at the dining table, my notebook open, and mapped my escape. First, I called the bank, whispering to avoid waking him. "Those charges weren't authorized," I told the rep, my voice steady. She promised to freeze the card and investigate, though I knew it wouldn't hold. Christopher's name was on the account. It was a delay tactic, a first strike. I emailed Sarah, my lawyer friend from college, who'd handled Mom's divorce. "Urgent, need to protect my finances," I wrote, attaching the bank alert. She replied by 6 a.m., offering a consultation at noon. I booked it, my calendar app pinging softly. Then I dove into our finances, every account a battlefield. Our joint checking held $3,200, mostly my deposits from last month's bonus. His freelance account, which I had access to, had $800, pathetic for someone who bragged about big clients. The credit card, maxed at $15,000, was in my name, a fact he'd exploited. My savings, $22,000, was my lifeline, built from years of scrimping. I opened a new account online, transferring every cent, my heart racing as I hit confirm. The confirmation email felt like a victory. At work, I was untouchable. My team was prepping a pitch for a fintech startup, and I led the morning meeting with precision, my slides crisp, my voice unwavering. "Great work, Emily," Karen said, her approval a small anchor. During a coffee break, Jenna noticed my tension. "You okay, boss?" she asked, her earrings glinting under the fluorescent lights. I hesitated, then admitted, "Rough night at home." She nodded, no questions, just a squeeze of my arm. Back at my desk, I researched financial protection, scrolling forums where women shared stories of husbands draining accounts. One post stuck with me: "Act fast, or you'll lose everything." I bookmarked it, my resolve hardening. Lunch was with Sarah at a bustling cafe near her firm, the clink of silverware drowning out our words. I slid over a folder, bank statements, screenshots, Lila's messages. "He's cheating and using my credit," I said, my voice low. Sarah's pen paused, her eyes narrowing. "This is financial infidelity, Emily. You could sue, but let's secure you first." She outlined steps: freeze joint accounts, document every transaction, prepare for separation. "He'll fight dirty," she warned, sipping her cappuccino. "Guys like this think they're untouchable." I nodded, the latte foam bitter on my tongue. "He's about to learn he's not." Back home, Christopher was oblivious, kissing my cheek as he asked about dinner. I cooked pasta, the garlic sizzle a strange comfort. He rambled about a huge project, his eyes darting away when I mentioned my day. I nodded, twirling spaghetti, my mind on the folder in my briefcase. After he went to bed, I stayed up, digging deeper. His browser history showed Tulum bars, romantic dinners, even a jewelry site. Had he bought her something? An email from Lila confirmed their flight next week, her words dripping with excitement. My jaw clenched. He thought he could spend my money, live his fantasy, then come home to me. He was wrong. The week was a masterclass in strategy. I met Sarah again, signing papers to sever Christopher from our accounts. I opened a new credit card, transferred utilities to my name, changed every password, bank, email, even our shared streaming apps. I called our landlord, confirming I could break the lease with 30 days' notice. At work, I pitched a transfer to our New York office, meeting Karen in her office, its windows framing the skyline. "Personal reasons," I explained, and she nodded, promising to expedite it. "You're a star, Emily. We need you there." I smiled, the praise a lifeline. But I wanted more than escape, I wanted justice. Sarah drafted a demand letter, citing his unauthorized charges and demanding $7,322 in repayment. "It'll rattle him," she said, grinning. I went further. His freelance account, the one he flaunted, was mine to access. I transferred the $800 to my new account, changed the password, and logged out. It wasn't stealing, our finances were joint, but it was a message. I met a financial advisor, recommended by Sarah, who reviewed my portfolio. "You're in good shape," she said, her office smelling of lavender. "Keep your savings separate, and you'll weather this."
The letter arrived
I left
Friday,
feeling invincible.
a courier
knocking as we ate breakfast. Christopher opened it, his fork clattering. "What is this, Emily?" he demanded, his face ashen. I sipped my coffee, calm. "You used my card for Tulum. With Lila. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" He stammered, eyes wide. "You're spying? That's low." I laughed, cold and sharp. "Low is spending $5,000 of my money on your girlfriend." I slid my phone across, showing their messages. He deflated, then rallied. "It's a work trip." "You're overreacting." I leaned back. "Your account's empty, Christopher." "How's that for overreacting?" The fight was brutal. He shouted, called me paranoid, said I'd pushed him away. I stayed calm, his words sliding off me. "You made your choice," I said, standing. "Now live with it." He stormed out, the door slamming. I packed a suitcase, booked a hotel, and left a note, "Enjoy Tulum. Good luck paying for it." The hotel was a downtown oasis, its lobby all marble and soft lights. My room's view of the city felt like freedom. I slept deeply, unburdened. Christopher's collapse was swift. Without my income, rent was impossible. The landlord started eviction notices. His clients, tipped off by Sarah's contacts, dropped him. Lila's husband, whom I'd emailed screenshots, filed for divorce, naming Christopher. Social media turned against him, friends unfollowing, whisper spreading. I stayed above it, finalizing my New York move. The agency offered a raise, a corner office, a new chapter. I signed, my mom's pen steady in my hand. Moving day was a ritual. I packed alone, Christopher's sketchpads left in the rain, my mosaics carefully wrapped. New York was a whirlwind, my apartment small but mine, the skyline a daily promise. Christopher called once, his voice broken. "I'm sorry, Em. Can we talk?" I stood at my window, the city alive below. "We're done," I said, hanging up. He'd left me empty in spirit, but I'd left him empty in truth, not for revenge, but for me. Now, I wake to New York's chaos, lead my team with confidence, and dream without limits. Mom visited, her pride palpable as we toured my office. "You're your own hero," she said, her hug fierce. Some nights, I miss the dream of us, but then I see my bank account, my name alone, my life reclaimed. If this journey moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of unbreakable spirits. Share below, have you risen above cruelty? Your story could light someone's path.